questions. I've got 5. I've just sat down kind of thinking over the weekend, Seth, all right, where are we at with the Texans? Kind of taking inventory because we're in sort of that lull period here. Draft is 2 weeks from Thursday. We'll have you covered from pillar to post here on the NFL Draft here on Sports Radio 610, including the run-up to it here the next couple weeks. We'll do the mock draft injection in about 35 minutes or so for today. It'll be Nick Shook from NFL.com. We'll do his mock draft. Number 1, is there a Caserio curveball coming in the next 2 weeks? This was about the time on the calendar when the Diggs trade got made a couple of years ago. It was in early April when they traded a second-round pick to Minnesota for Stephon Diggs. There are still free agents out there that could fill a need for the Texans or at least supplement the depth, especially on the defensive side of the ball, that the Texans could shop for. Caserio said that himself in one of his appearances, I think on Texans All Access at the owners' meetings last week, that they're still kicking tires on some guys. DeMeco Ryans himself said they may not be done on the offensive line yet. Now, DeMeco might have been, for sure, was referring in part to the draft. I don't know if they're going to bring in more vets, but is there a Caserio curveball coming in the next 2 weeks? The other one we should point out, Seth, maybe he trades out of 28 in the next couple of weeks in advance of the draft as opposed to on draft night.
Right. Stephon Diggs was traded for on April 3rd or 4th, and I want to say it was a Saturday, wasn't it?
No, it happened when we were on the air. Right at the toss.
Oh.
Right at the toss, between us and In the Loop,
I think I'd be surprised if there was a major move between now and the draft because it usually doesn't happen. There's no way I would say it's impossible at any given. I mean, Nick's one of the most active traders around. I'd be curious about any of the guys that are available in free agency right now that are at a position of need for the Texans. They're all the types of guys where you'd say, let's wait until after the draft and see if we need to pick this guy up or not. Like A.J. Epinesa, the edge rusher from the Bills, he's still out there in free agency. Yeah. I think you go into the draft maybe seeing how everything plays out, maybe end up drafting an edge rusher early in the draft or something. You say, all right, we'll hold off on worrying about getting a veteran acquisition. So I don't the most marquee name out there right now might be Stephon Diggs, and I don't think that's going to happen.
I don't think that's happening. Yeah,
I mean Joey Bosa is a big name, but he's he comes with a whole bunch of questions.
The Diggs thing is interesting just because he had a good year last year for New England, and I wonder what the intel is on his off the field stuff right now. Because it's not. I don't think he's a fit for I don't think he'd come back here. I don't think he's a fit for the Texans anymore. But there's certainly a number of teams that could use a guy that had 1,000 yards of receiving last year, was a good player for a team that went to the damn Super Bowl, and all is quiet on the Diggs front. So I'm just wondering what people are hearing about his off the field stuff right now.
The Joey Bosa, Bosa is actually he's only 31 years old.
Yeah.
That wouldn't be a huge surprise to me if they brought in Bosa. I think for him it would be a matter of understanding I'm going to be a rotational edge rusher.
Guy,
and he might be looking for a different situation than that.
Well, that doesn't pay very much.
Yeah.
So you may be looking for money.
Which again though, that's the kind of stuff that sorts itself out after the draft. If the Texans really just don't, because they need, in my mind, that's one of their increasingly desperate needs is to have more of an impactful edge rusher rotating in with those guys.
Yes.
That's been part of the formula the last couple of years.
Yep.
But after the draft, if they don't get a young guy that they feel really good about or they're intrigued by, they might just go ahead and pull the trigger on something like that.
Yep. Derek Barnett's still out there, so that he could be. He's been a solution the last couple of years at that level of rotational guy. So that's number one. Is there a Caserio curveball coming in the next 2 weeks? I'm inclined to say no, but they're curveballs for a reason. Number two, when is the Will Anderson Jr. contract extension coming? I'm so far off on my barometer for this. I thought this would be like a Stingley situation last year where it would be done just, a week into the league year. Stingley signed his last year on March 18th, I believe. Mm-hmm. We're 2-3 weeks after that now. Here was DeMeco Ryans at the owners' meetings last week on Will Anderson Jr.
You talk about a leader and a guy who does everything the right way, everything you want, everything I've asked of him. Just being in this draft this draft time, I just remember back, speaking with Will, he was our first 30 visit, first guy we had in on a 30 visit, and that meeting is still the best 30 visit I've ever seen. Like, he's just that type of guy. And, he's a leader in all respects. So I love having Will, love what he can provide to our organization. I think he's shown that in the 3 years that he's been here.
Yeah, I mean, the deal's going to get done at some point here. I'm a little surprised it hasn't gotten done yet.
Right. And I guess so many of the things always comes down to just what's the level of urgency? What are you maybe arguing about or negotiating about? The deal might be, for all we know, the deal might be pretty much all but done, except they want to add in some little intricacy to help out one side or the other. Mm-hmm. It's going to happen between now and September. I would be shocked and amazed if it didn't happen. I'd also be shocked if we heard anything out of Will Anderson that sounded like discontent or anything.
Yeah, ever.
I don't think there's
about anything.
I don't think he's going to unfollow the Texans on social media.
No.
I don't think he's going to not show up for an OTA or something.
Can you imagine? Like
somebody, one of the viewers on my live stream this weekend said that he was tired of Sean saying that CJ won't hold out of OTAs. And I don't remember you making a bunch of points about this or anything. I would be surprised if he holds out of OTAs.
I was making points last week. The thing I said last week that may have gotten construed that way is of the things we've heard and seen CJ doing this offseason, he's not conducting himself like somebody who's going to hold out from OTAs.
Right.
He's
Remember Kyler Murray? Kyler Murray was just floating all kinds of things through the press, on social media, doing all kinds of things, basically agitating for a new deal. Yeah. I would just be surprised if CJ operated that way.
Yeah.
It doesn't mean that he doesn't want a new deal or anything. It's just I think he's a little bit more careful, and he's pretty professional and mature and polished when it comes to handling that side of the PR stuff.
I like that there's people who have issues with my takes popping into your live stream to tell you about it.
Yeah. But I never know for sure because people confuse our names a lot too.
Yeah.
Sometimes people get mad. They'll say something about Sean that was 100% something I said.
Oh, that sucks for you. Because I have the more ratchet takes. I think.
It was somebody who was
you're a little more measured than I am. I think
it was somebody who was viewing the Seth Payne show on YouTube. I would assume he got the name right.
Yeah, that'd be funny. You bought a Burrows jersey yet, Seth? Huh? Yeah. All right. Question number 3. We're doing the big questions for the Texans right now as we sit this offseason. One was, is there a Caserio curveball coming? Number 2 was, when is the Will Anderson Jr. extension coming? Number 3, are there any other contracts coming aside from Will Anderson Jr.? C.J. Stroud's the big one, and it's its own topic, and we could sit here for days talking about why he should get it, why he shouldn't get it. There's cases to be made both ways. I think Seth and I are both of the opinion. It doesn't matter which guy you get, either Seth or Sean. I think we share this opinion, is that it's not coming this offseason, I don't think, for CJ. Yeah. I think we're both in that ballpark right now. If it did, whatever. We'll see what it looks like.
If it does, I don't expect it to be a league-setting contract or a top, one of the very top deals in the league. Yep. And I think for me, and maybe this is just delusional on my part, but I feel like there is such a thing as a congenial impasse where it might be that the Texans say, sure, we'd love to lock you down, but it's going to be at a lesser than top of the market rate. And CJ might say, I understand why you feel that way. I'm going to bet on myself. And,
cool.
If you're not going to give me a league-leading contract, I get it, I understand, but I'm going to try to prove it this year.
I think that's the most likely way it goes, is that it's cordial, he plays it out, and I think we're all rooting for him to get a big contract because that means he'll have had a huge year 4 as an NFL quarterback.
The lower key potential extensions, just as the Texans have this way of kind of sneaking in things like every year we've had a Brevin Jordan extension that
Davis
you look
Mills.
at and you think, okay, cool. Yeah, Davis Mills out of nowhere. Tommy Togiai in the first week of last season gets an extension, a 1-year extension. It ended up being awesome. Wow. And I wouldn't be surprised if they give Tommy Togiai another extension based on how he played after they gave him the first extension.
Yep.
Henry To'oTo'o and Azeez Al-Shire are the ones that are, I think, a little bit more urgent in front of mind because they are established starters who are in the last year of their deal.
Yep.
We know Azeez is one of D'Amico's favorite all-time football players, but he's also pushing 30 and or approaching 30, and you wonder exactly how they want to deal with that contractually.
Yeah, the other two that are on their rookie deals. I think there's 5 guys in that 2023 draft class where you can have a conversation about a contract extension of some flavor. We just talked about Will Anderson Jr. Obviously, C.J. Stroud is a discussion. The other 3, you mentioned Toa, and I don't think that would be a high-level extension or anything, but I think it would, they extended Henry Toa for a couple of years at, a few $1 million a year, whatever. Xavier Hutchinson is another one. They like him. They love his improvement. They love his work ethic. But he's a guy who catches 30 balls a year. I don't know.
Yeah.
And I think everybody who is here likes it here. So I think Xavier Hutchinson, if they were to approach him just as a depth type contract,
you got to be careful with him because he's an Iowa State guy. I feel like they almost got like a mafia thing going where they got to have at least 5 guys on the roster.
Right.
But now it's maybe more of a Matt Campbell thing now. Whatever it might be, yeah.
Yep.
You got to be careful you let go of an Xavier Hutchinson.
That's true.
You might wake up with a horse head in your bed.
Tank Dell is an interesting one because, you brought up Brevin Jordan. Brevin Jordan is the guy who's been injured a lot, and they keep extending him because they like him. I think they love Tank Dell. I think Tank Dell loves being a Texan. Tank Dell is the one injured guy who's had season-ending injuries who was still around the team last year. Like, you look at the locker room celebrations during that 10-game winning streak, hell, Tank is standing right next to D'Amico in half the locker room speeches after the game. Could that be one? I'm not saying give Tank Dell, 3 years, $60 million or anything like that, but he's heading into the last year of his rookie contract. That could be an indicator of where they feel Tank is physically if they tack a year onto his deal.
That's where, you don't want to be in a situation where, man, if Tank Dell comes back and just lights it on fire, he's headed into free agency.
Yeah.
So if you're able to work something out with him now, then and I would present it thusly. Like, we love you, and we want to be sure that you keep this environment around you.
Right.
We're doing this because we care about you.
That's right.
Now, accept the league minimum for an extension for 1 year.
Yeah.
Because we love you so much. You got to gaslight the young fella.
We want you to be here. Don't pay any attention to the dollar amount. It's about being in Houston.
Yes.
Yeah.
We love you. I thought you loved us.
Yeah.
I don't know. Oh, we're making this about money now? No. It's about commitment.
I thought you did this for the love of the game. What's your problem?
Yeah.
All right, so I think those are guys. If I had to pick, of all those guys we just named, again, with Will and CJ being on a separate burner in this conversation, I would say Azeez. If I had to bet on any of the names we just talked about here, Seth, as to we get, a Schefter push notification or, Aaron Wilson or somebody, Azeez Al-Shaair would be the one I would bet on, getting an extension. That would be the one. Just tacking on a year or two to his deal.
He could build his own rose garden.
That's right, yes.
Remember the one he walks around? He told Gruden that he walked around that rose garden in San Francisco,
That's
and
right.
Gruden was blown away.
He was caught very off guard by that. All right, question number 4. Left to right, what does the first-string offensive line look like when drills begin this spring? That's the thing, is when we get to OTAs and they're starting to do walkthroughs and things like that, I'm anxious to see. I think I would bet heavily on this as the best guess of it being Ursery, left to right, Ursery, Wyatt Teller, Jake Andrews at center, and then Ed Ingram and Braden Smith on the right side. But who knows? Trent Brown's in the building. You got a couple guys who, you got guys here who have had injury issues,
right?
That kind of thing.
The biggest question for me is obviously the center position. I think Jake Andrews is going to have a legitimate chance to compete with whomever is on the depth chart when it comes time, when it's post-draft. So if they draft a center in the second or third round, I think Jake Andrews starts off as the starter, and it's his job to either keep or lose. And the other question is, I assume Braden Smith is going to start off starting at right tackle, and yet I could see, because he's the incumbent, perhaps Trent Brown starting at right tackle.
Yeah.
It's always interesting, though, when you bring in a guy in as a veteran free agent, it's just pretty much assumed he's going to start, but who knows?
Yeah.
I don't know exactly how they'll, because I'm guessing they've had conversations with Trent Brown too about his injury history, his age, all of those things, and whether Trent Brown might be cool with being the named swing tackle.
Yeah.
Knowing that he's going to get a chance to play at some point because of injury during the season, whether he's just cool with that or whether he expects to compete.
Yeah, I would think I'd be shocked if they hadn't had conversations with him about that. I think you just follow the breadcrumbs of the contracts. I mean, Braden Smith got 2 years, $25 million or whatever it is.
Yeah.
Trent Brown got 1 year, $7 million. So I think may know which way the wind's blowing. I still compete, but man, I like where they've gone with this line through this free agency period. But that's my best guess. Here was Ariante Ursary. He was on some Texans content. I think it might have been Iron Sharpens Iron, but he talked about his love for Cole Popovich.
I want to give some love to Cole Popovich, man. Him as a first-year offensive line coach, what he was able to do with our group, having him being able to come in here and coach all the little bitty details.
1, 2, 3.
The mentality, everything. Like this year as a unit, we just all really just clicked, and we were starting to see the progress that we worked hard for.
Okay.
That's the biggest thing is he was talking about that, seeing things start to click and everything, but very much leaving it as, sounds like, yeah, there's more improving to do. Compared to previous years when you'd have various offensive linemen basically saying, why is everybody making a big deal? We're really good, even though they weren't as a unit. A lot of that, I think, is the influence of Trent Brown. I mean, Trent Brown just very openly said that we need to get on the same level as the defense. We need to be a part of this, too. Mm-hmm. So I like the overall attitude in that room right now.
I do, too. And the more I think about it, I'm just thinking, okay, well, Ursary wasn't here for pre-Cole Popovich being the O-line coach. I know Cole Popovich has been in the building for a few years. So Ursary doesn't have any comparison. I'm looking at the depth chart. The only guys that have any basis for comparison of what it was like before Cole Popovich and after Cole Popovich are Jarrett Patterson and Blake Fisher. That's it. These other guys, it's all kind of, I would be interested to get the takes of the guys who were here when, they had
when he was an assistant O-line coach versus what he is now.
Yeah, and you had an O-line coach, let's be honest, that was talking about retiring before 2024.
Yeah.
And Chris Strouser, how much did Cole Popovich elevate that room from what it had been before?
I think part of it is one of the big differences is that Cole Popovich and Nick Caley are aligned, and you can tell by the way that Cole Popovich coaches, the play calling and what they're trying to kind of major in the run game. It's just there's those guys are on the same wavelength.
Yep.
Where with Bobby Slowick and Chris Strouser, based on what I saw with my own eyes and with what other people have told me, there was a disconnect there.
Yeah.
And that's a bad disconnect to have when your offensive line coach and your offensive coordinator might have different philosophies about the way to run the offense. It's tough to get that to work and to look good.
It felt thrown together in retrospect. It felt thrown together. That partnership.
Felt like a platypus.
Yes. Okay. All the different body parts. Yeah. So here's question number 5, last one, and then we'll get to Acknowledge Me. The schedule comes out like a month from Thursday or so, like it's the first week in May or second week in May. What does the league think of the Houston Texans right now come schedule making time? Because the Texans, say what you will about performances in prime time or whatever the case may be, they were treated like an attraction the last couple years. 2 years ago in 2024, they had 6, I'll call them like stage to themselves games. Not all of them were in prime time.
Yeah.
Last year they had 5 that were stage to themselves games, prime time and otherwise. Like that Chargers game was a Saturday game at 3:30 where they had the audience to themselves. So that's 11 over the last 2 years. Does the league still view the Texans, largely based on their defense, I would imagine, as an attraction when the schedule comes out?
Let me add this to the mix.
Okay.
That as of immediately following the Texans-Patriots game, that was the most watched event in ESPN history.
Yep.
So ESPN, at least for their primetime games, probably has a good taste in their mouth about whether the obviously it's the playoffs and everything. But yeah, I think that they're still in that upper, but not extremely high tier of, okay, we want to, listen, everybody, I know you're going to hate it when I say this, but the Cowboys and teams like that are always going to get a bunch of primetime games because whether they suck or whether they're awesome, they draw a lot of eyeballs. Texans are in that position where, all right, they got to be a good team, but do they still have some appeal on top of that? I think last year, the Chiefs game, I think got really good ratings, so I think they still have that marquee value as long as the matchups are right. So I think we're treated to at least 4 primetime.
I think at least 4. I would say 5 again. I think at least 4. I still think they got a lot of star power. So we'll see.